Tonight, families are grieving the loss of 5 people killed in a deadly crash on I-20.
One young woman is fighting for her life right now after losing her mother, father, brother, and grandfather in that crash.
Yeah, WFAA just obtained a newly released police affidavit that reveals new details about what happened.
4 hearses left the Dallas County Medical Examiner's office carrying the McKellar family to a funeral home in Fort Worth. Jabbar McKellar, his wife Krishan, their son Kason, and Jabbar's father Billy, all killed in the crash. The only survivor in the vehicle, Evan McKellar, lost a foot in the crash and remains in critical condition. A GoFundMe account is now open to help the family with expenses.
Investigators say it started when a semi plowed into the McKellar's pickup truck going 75 miles an hour. There was no sign the driver ever hit the brakes. Another woman named Nicole Gregory was killed when the semi jackknifed and crushed her car.
Police now say the truck driver admitted he fell asleep at the wheel.
Tonight, senior investigative reporter Tanya Iser looks at the trucking company he worked for and listens to a former driver's disturbing allegations.
My heart just kind of dropped, like, man, that a week ago, like a week, 2 weeks ago, that could have been me.
You're hearing from a trucker who drove for Hope Trans, the same company whose truck was involved in a crash Saturday that killed 5 people in Terrell. Court records say the driver in that deadly wreck told police he fell asleep behind the wheel. The truck driver we spoke to, who asked us to conceal his identity, says he's not surprised, given what he experienced.
There was just so many red flags.
The truck driver provided us a copy of his employment agreement and showed us messages with company dispatchers, including records from a run he took last month from Atlanta to Phoenix.
They pressured me into this load.
By law, truckers can't drive more than 11 hours a day, then they must take a 10-hour break. The 1,900-mile trip normally takes 27 hours of driving. He says he did it in 34 hours.
I next day shipped it from Atlanta all the way to Phoenix off of 3 hours of sleep.
Here's the contract for that load, known as the bill of lading. It shows the departure date was backdated as well, from June 9th to June 8th.
I could have quit. I could have said no. I was one paycheck loss away from my wife and kids losing our house.
The trucker also provided us this message instructing drivers to hide any original paperwork.
This is coercion. They're coercing this guy to do something that everybody from the company safety folks to the entire industry knows what they're doing is illegal.
Dale Prax owns Freight Validate, a company that tracks fraud and identity theft in trucking. Federal records show that Hope Trans drivers were repeatedly cited for driving beyond the 11-hour driving limit.
They just acted like they didn't know how to dispatch within the law.
We also learned Hope Trans had listed a Tacoma address in federal records, but that address, a co-working space. When our sister station showed up Tuesday, the staff said the company only got mail there. They didn't actually work there. Here's why that's important. When a trucking company registers with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, it's required to list a principal place of business. That means a real physical address, not just a mailbox or a P.O. box. It's supposed to be where driver and safety records are kept, and where federal inspectors can show up unannounced to check those records.
If I was an investigator and I went to look at those records, within 24 hours of the accident, where would I find them?
But 2 days after the deadly crash, federal records show the company's address suddenly changed. Gone was the Washington state address, replaced by an apartment in Orlando.
Why do they have that address in Washington in a virtual office in the first place?
Back in May, WFA uncovered trucking companies violating those rules, including 20 companies registered to this virtual mailbox on West Commerce Street in Dallas. So they wouldn't actually be physically here?
No, they would not be working here physically, no.
We also found nearly 700 companies tied to this single address in Signal Hill, California. And get this, roughly 500 of them list the same email, WTFFMCSA@AOL.com.
We're finding that a huge percentage of the bad guys list a virtual office address because they don't want to be tracked. They don't want to be found.
We reached out to the CEO of Hope Trans, Ashat Magomedova, multiple times by phone and email. She did not respond.
If you were describing this company to somebody that might be thinking about going to go work for them, what would you tell them?
I would tell them stay far away. Companies like this, it's a very big problem. There's probably thousands and thousands of trucks just like these people on the road that have not gotten any sleep. and it's hard to put a stop to it.
We reached out to federal regulators and they said they're working on it. On Tuesday, Governor Greg Abbott tweeted out our story from Monday and said he's asked the Texas Department of Public Safety to expand its investigation. In Dallas, I'm Tanya Iser.
Well, if you're a truck driver or have ever driven for Hope Trans in the past, our Investigates team wants to hear from you. You can email them at investigates@wfaa.com.